Hello, welcome to the Comics and More podcast. I'm Dave Ferraro from Comics and More.
And I'm Patrick Markfort from Articulate Nerd. On this week's episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. One of my favorites from my childhood. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series published by IDW. And we're also going to be talking about the recently published Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate Collection Volume 1, also published by IDW and collecting the first several issues of the original Mirage Black and White series. There is also going to be, at the end of this episode, a special public appeal from me to those responsible for publishing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that for sure. And Leonardo is here with us too, our guest host. He probably won't be saying much, but he's going to be here to lend moral support. Okay, so obviously I'm a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles fan. We're just the right age for the nostalgia to be at its peak for this kind of material. So I don't know how objective I'll be able to be about this stuff, particularly the archival collection.
What is your history with the Turtles now?
My history with the Turtles?
Yeah.
Well, I liked watching the Turtles. Well, actually, the Ninja Turtles were the first comics I ever read. So they're really exciting. What got me into comic books. I mean, of course, I loved the toys and the cartoon show when I was a kid, and it was the first kind of thing I was really into, which is probably true for a lot of people my age. But yeah, they were the first comic books that I ever read. So, but I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of the podcast.
Okay, I was a big Turtles fan too, but I never read the original comics.
Mm-hmm.
I was strictly a fan of the cartoon, the trading cards, and a ton of action figures.
Yep.
But yeah, and obviously things differ a little bit in the original series and the new series from what people know in the TV series.
Mm-hmm.
But all right, if you want to go ahead with
well,
that.
Enough about us.
Yeah.
So let's start out with our review of the first 4 issues of the new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series that IDW has been putting out. So I guess we can show the covers really quick. All of these issues, I believe, certainly I know this first issue had and have multiple covers, which is fairly common to IDW. I think all of the covers that I've got here are by Dan Duncan, the artist on the series. I know Kevin Eastman has also done variant covers for most, if not all, of the issues. This is the issue to the 4th issue, featuring Old Hob? Is that the name of the character? The new Alley Cat villain there. So those are the covers to the first 4 issues of this new series. The series is written in part by Kevin Eastman, who is one of the 2 co-creators of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, along with Tom Waltz, and Waltz does the script for it. Eastman also collaborates on the artwork for the series. He does layouts, and then Dan Duncan does the finished art on top of those with colors. It's a color series by Rhonda Pattison. So the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles have been in more or less continuous publication since their inception in the 1980s. They took a bit of a break between the last issue published by Mirage and the first of these IDW issues. So I'm sure a lot of people were happy to see the Turtles back in comic book stores on a regular basis. And this series, rather than picking up where the previous Mirage series had left off, is sort of a reimagining, revamp, redo, remake of the whole concept. So these first 4 issues comprise the first story arc, and they basically tell a new version of the origin story of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And the series kind of combines elements from a lot of different incarnations of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It's definitely most reminiscent of the original Eastman and Laird Mirage series, but it also borrows elements from the cartoon and various other comics and things like that have come out over the years. Which has always been one thing I've really enjoyed about the Turtles comics, is that there doesn't really seem to be like one definitive version of the characters. I'm sure there are fans of the Mirage comics who consider that to be the real Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But it seems like for the most part, most Turtles fans are willing to accept all of these different incarnations across all these different media and embrace them to one extent or the other, including Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. They always seem very open to different interpretations and spins on the Turtles. So this series very much is in that spirit. It kind of looks at all the Turtles comics throughout history, and this kind of presents an kind of an ultimate version of the Ninja Turtles. So the updated version of their origin, which we get here, is a little bit different. Essentially, the serum or the ooze or whatever that transforms the turtles into the Ninja Turtles is being developed in a laboratory as some kind of a super soldier serum by the mad scientist character Baxter Stockman, who has shown up in a lot of different incarnations of the Turtles stories over the years. April O'Neil, the Turtles' human companion, of course, is a much younger character here. He is like an assistant or an intern at the lab. Casey Jones, also a longtime supporting character in the Ninja Turtles comics, is also a much younger teenage character here. So a lot of the updates that they've made to the story and the origin, some I thought kind of worked better than others. Some of it seemed a little bit superfluous. I don't know that setting it in a laboratory really made it any more interesting. They have a little bit in there about, Casey Jones comes from an physically abusive home, and I'm always, I don't know how well that kind of material fits into a world with talking Ninja Turtle characters and rats. It's a little, sketchy. I'm not sure. They don't go too far into that kind of thing, but other aspects of this new version are, I thought, more interesting and well done. Most significantly, there is a brand new villain who's the Heavy in this story arc. So they flash forward between like present day Turtles and their origin amongst these 4 issues. And the villain, Old Hob, is a mutant alley cat whose origin is tied into that of the Turtles. So that was he's a cool character, and that was a welcome addition. Also, one of the most significant departures in this story from the original is that Raphael, kind of the fan favorite bad boy of the group with the size, he is separated from the other members of the team. So he does not come into the group until later on in the story. So that alters things pretty significantly. Some things worked here, some things didn't. For the most part, I thought these comics were pretty good. I enjoy this series. The artwork by Dan Duncan over layouts by Kevin Eastman, as I said, is quite nice looking. Very fluid, dynamic art style that, again, kind of mixes the sorts of art styles that we've seen in Turtles over the years. So it's got a bit of a darker edge to it, but it's a bit more cartoony than some of the more realistic stuff. So I thought that worked really well. I like that Kevin Eastman is so involved with this series. He seems very enthusiastic about it, involved with both the writing and the artwork. They often have sketches from him for his layouts in the back of the book. So for the most part, I think IDW is doing a quite nice job with this series. Mm-hmm. What did you think of it?
I thought they were okay. Mm-hmm. Like, I did like the art. I do like some things. Like, I like when the villain's like origin is tied in with the heroes. It just makes things a lot simpler. You don't have to go into huge backstories for things. So it just makes it a lot easier. Old Hobbs okay. I mean, he's not a great villain. He's just like a gang leader pretty much. And they're hinting at like some kind of like relationship with him and the people who developed the ooze now. Mm-hmm. Casey Jones's background was a little, I don't know, story of the weekish a little bit. So that was a little cheesy.
I didn't feel like it was really. I mean, I like Casey Jones. I'm glad he's in this.
I like that he and Raphael kind of got together before they, Raphael met up with the other turtles.
Yeah.
And I do like that Raphael was separated from them kind of at their new birth.
Yeah.
Like when they were ooze. But
kind of a cool twist.
I don't know. For the most part, I was just kind of like, I don't know, just waiting for things to kind of happen a little bit. Like, it was a little boring. Like, these generic gang members that they go up against and fight. I don't know. I just didn't feel like any of the action was particularly interesting. I did like some of the setup stuff, but for the most part, it just kind of like, I guess the pace was a lot slower and didn't hold my interest as much as I would have wanted going into this.
Yeah, maybe especially because, I mean, we've seen the Turtles' origins so many times and so many different versions of it. It's like maybe we didn't need to spend so much time on the minutia of how they came in contact with the ooze or the mutagen or whatever. There's a couple of there's a different spin on it here, but it's not drastically different than the story we all know.
Yeah, and like you said, like the ooze was made in a lab, and not very interesting.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It doesn't necessarily make it any more interesting.
So I guess that was my big issue with the series, but I'm glad to see the Turtles back. Now that they're finally together and stuff, I feel like they can finally build on this and kind of like the origins behind them. Yeah. Let's get going with it, you know what I mean? I'm just not a big fan of origin like issues, and this was just like a long 4-issue drawn-out origin story.
True.
And I just want to just get going with building the mythology.
That's a good point. I see what you're saying. Well, we'll see where it goes from here. Yeah. I mean, I was happy to see that it's a comic book of genuinely high quality. I mean, I thought the new kind of elements were interesting enough that it held my interest. But we'll see where it goes from here.
Exactly.